Welcome back to Fun on Weekdays podcast, or welcome to. I'm your host, Jenna Palick, and today I have a very special guest. I always say special every time I have a guest in general, but you are very special because we met through my Facebook group.
Yes, we did.
Gabrielle Connolly.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'm a little nervous, so.
No, don't be nervous. Right before this, we were just having a conversation. It was so easy. It feels like when you meet someone for the first time and you just instantly, you feel like you've met them for years. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how it was.
Well, so, I've been literally following you on TikTok too since like the beginning of it all, like the TikTok era, like work of everything. And so I feel like I've watched your life like, unfold, and it's so cool to like, come full circle and be here. So
thank you. Well, I'm happy for you to be a part of it. So today, Gabrielle and I are going to talk about her experience working in the military and kind of taking a more untraditional route after college, after high school, figuring out college wasn't for her. So before we get into all of that, Gabrielle, who are you, girl? Give everybody a little detail about you.
I am Gabrielle. My friends call me Gabby, and my name suits me because I love to talk. And I grew up in New Hampshire. I lived there for about just over 20 years. And then I joined the military. So I got super lucky and ended up in sunny San Diego, California. And I never really left. I just, I got out a few months ago and I just love the lifestyle out there. So I'm staying.
I love San Diego. I went there for a weekend visit earlier this year, maybe even last year. I don't even remember the dates. Like, time is just going by so fast. I can't keep track of my calendar. But I went there and I was like, wow, I could really see myself living here if I were to move to a different city. I just loved it.
It's so expensive though.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was gonna say. Like, what is the downfall? You're living on the ocean. There's beautiful homes everywhere. There's so much to do. Price.
It's the price. It's like, out here, people have been like, oh, gas, it's gone up a little bit. It's like $3.30. I'm like, $3.30? It was like $6.50 for us, like at the beginning of the year. Oh, it was horrible.
Oh my God.
Or like in the podcast group, a lot of girls ask for advice about like, I'm between these places to live, and I feel like San Diego is always one of them. And, I feel like it's different when you're in college in San Diego versus like I'm older and being in San Diego. And everyone's like, yeah, San Diego's so fun. Like, come. But I'm always the one that's like, yeah, please check like the pricing and like make sure your financials are good, because it's expensive. Like, you can really start drowning out there, literally, like if you don't have any of your finances straight. Well, it's so expensive.
Actually, so for anyone that's considering moving to San Diego, I almost just said San Antonio. all of those cities that start with sand. All the sands. So for anyone that's considering moving to San Diego, other than price, what would you tell anyone that's considering it? And you said also too, like people that are a little bit younger, like going into college or just fresh out. Like, what would you say is the difference?
So I think it's like, obviously when you're in college, you can live in like, the college housing. You can live in dorms and or just, prorated kind of things because you're in college by the campuses and things like that. Or you're living with like 4 or 5 roommates. So, cost of living is a lot cheaper if you're splitting things. So I just feel like when you get older and you want that place for yourself, and then you're looking and you're realizing studio apartments are more expensive than 1 bedrooms, but 1 bedrooms are still like $2,600 a month. It's just like insane. And that's not even like a good part of town. So I guess my biggest advice, if anybody wants to move to San Diego, would definitely be like, take a week or two, maybe try some Airbnbs or like VRBOs in different areas and see what you like, and really just check out like, what your price point is and like if you can make it work, because we just went through a heat wave and electricity bills are like $400.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's insane. But obviously there's so much to do there. Like you can never be bored being in San Diego, quite literally. You got the mountains 2 hours away. LA's a 2-hour drive, and the beach is pretty much 20 minutes from anywhere in San Diego. So can't go wrong.
I miss having a beach. We don't have that. We have like Galveston, and I've never been there. And then Corpus Christi, never been there either. But I feel like the Texas beaches have nothing on the West Coast.
No. And it's kind of a shock how beaches are like in California, because I'm used to New England beaches, and it's a lot different. I don't know. I feel like I've gotten the best of both, being on like both coasts, and it's definitely cool.
So being from New Hampshire, the military brought you over to San Diego.
Yes.
And before getting into the military, you decided you wanted to try out college.
Yes. So a little bit of background. I played softball my entire life. I was very athletic growing up. My dad was a phenomenal baseball player. He played D1 college baseball, and I always wanted to follow in his footsteps. And I was like, I'm going to play Division I college softball. I ended up signing for a D2 school that actually petitioned up the year before I went there to be Division I. So I was like, yes, everything's coming full circle. This is amazing. I was like, I'm not going to lie, like, I definitely thought I was like a hot shot. I was young, I was immature still, so I definitely was like, oh, look at me kind of thing. Yeah, and I reflect and I'm like, I wish I didn't have that attitude about it. So I ended up only doing a semester at the school I was playing softball at, and I became really burnt out because I loved softball. I played probably 325 days a year growing up. I didn't really have a normal childhood in that sense. Like, my summers were spent doing 4-day tournaments every single weekend. And when you get to college and you're playing at a collegiate level like that, the NCAA owns you. They say it's school, then sports. No, it's school. It's sports, then school. As long as your grades are, good, that's all they care about. It's all about sports. You're having a 4 a.m. lifting and cardio session, and then you're going to a 4-hour practice later that night. And in between that, you're getting done like classes and trying to fit in time to do homework. It was a lot.
And I really cannot imagine.
I got very burnt out, and I just remember calling my parents and being like, I quit. And my dad was like, what? Like, couldn't believe it, because that was like our bond, because my dad also coached me growing up. So we had like a very different dynamic of father-daughter and then like, coach and player.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just like, my parents have always told me when something becomes not fun anymore, you shouldn't do it. And I just got really burnt out. Like, I just ended up not liking the school as much as I thought I would. Because obviously when you're trying out these schools and you're going on overnight trips and like a team is trying to sell something to you, I was like,
love bombing
me. Like, I'm like every man I've met gaslighting me. So like, they made it like the most memorable, crazy, awesome weekend. And I was like, yes, like, I am going there. So school ended up not being like that. I learned very quickly. And yeah, so I dropped out after that semester. I took a semester off and I just worked. And then I went to my local state school, actually, where my dad went to college, about 25 minutes from where I grew up, the University of New Hampshire, which is a phenomenal school. And once again, I felt very unfulfilled. Like, I wasn't doing too well academically. I just feel like I could never stay concentrated. I felt like I didn't have that thing I was passionate about anymore, because I was passionate about softball for 15 years of my life. So it was very weird. And then to also be a sophomore and go in and live with girls that already knew each other. I was the newbie. Okay. I lived with 6 girls in like the apartment style dorm. And I was a new girl. I was just trying to fit in so bad with all of them, because I wanted their friendship. Like, I wanted to have that like college experience of like, oh my gosh, these are my best friends. And they were great people. Like, I still keep in touch with all of them till this day. But I was definitely the odd man out,
Yeah.
Very different.
I think too, coming into a group when you're a little bit later, you maybe do shift who you are a little bit.
Yeah, I was definitely changing myself, like, for them. I was trying to like fit their mold of how their dynamic was, which typically wasn't me. Yeah, and once again, I just felt really unfulfilled. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't doing the best academically, and I came home after that semester, and I remember my dad and I had a long talk, because he's like, I'm not sending you to a third college. Like, we're not trying this again, because I kept being like, well, what if I do community college and show you that my grades get up? But I had no desire. I had absolutely no desire to even like make college work. It was more to like appease everyone in my family, because pretty much everyone in my generation of family all went to college. Like, everyone has like a phenomenal story. They're really smart. Like, my cousin's a doctor. My other cousin threw javelin at High Point University. Then my 3 other cousins all went to the University of New Hampshire. My sister graduated from the University of New Hampshire. So shout out to Isabella, because I know she's going to watch this. But
it's just that idea that the people you surround yourself with, you compare yourself to them, and it's always playing this game of like trying to be at the same level as people around you. And when you're not, you're so hard on yourself. And ultimately you're always feeling unfulfilled and chasing something that even once you do get it, it's the question of like, once I do get it, am I actually going to be happy? Like, I don't know. So what did you go to school for?
So I was originally in school for like communications, like, very broad, what, a lot of people go to school for. And I remember I was I met some people when I was at the University of New Hampshire that were in the R&P program, like rec management and policy, and they had the coolest classes, and like they were always like skiing, snowboarding, and hiking, and like doing these overnights, and I was like, I want to do that. Yeah. And then I realized like you gotta have good grades to switch your major. So I ended up just not going back either.
And that's okay. Like, college is not for everyone. Literally in the last episode that I just recorded, I was saying like the fact that we're supposed to pick what we're supposed to do for the rest of our life when we're 18 years old, like who is giving us that much power in our lives? Like, why do they think that is a good choice, And so it's natural that what you want to do with your life is going to change every year, every couple years, every few months, Oh,
yeah. I mean, obviously we've talked a little bit about like what I do now, but I think in the last year, I've called my parents like a bunch of times, like every month being like, I found what I want to do. Yeah. I'm going to do this. And my parents are like, okay, Gabby, like, it's just like, I see something. It's like you get a hyper fixation on it and you're like, wait, I could do that. So yeah, it was
totally feel you on that. One day I'm like, oh my gosh, I should really get back into doing like hair and makeup. I used to do that in high school. I'm like,
realty, water boy.
Right. And you have, the thing about life is that you constantly have options. You constantly have so many distractions of things going on. You constantly see people around you that have these different things. And it really clouds your judgment of, do I actually want this? Or do I just want something else than what I have? Because I think it's really hard to be truly like appreciative of everything that you do have. So oftentimes our mind will wander to, I wonder what my life would be like if I did this.
Yeah, it's that, like, I've learned that if you constantly keep wondering, you're never going to be happy or satisfied. Yeah, so
I'm working on, so.
Yeah, I left college. I was like, you know what? And when I had that talk with my dad was like, you need structure. So I did, because I thought I could still be like my college friends, but living at home and just, working part-time. I was working at a seafood restaurant part-time. Okay. And yeah, and then we had the talk, and he's like, maybe you should join the military. And I remember I bawled my eyes out. I was like, you want to ship me off to the military? And I was just like so distraught. He's like, Papa, like my grandfather was in the military, and a few other of my like great uncles and that generation of my family were in, but those were the times of like, there was barely any even woman in the Navy or even the military in general. So I just remember being like, wow, my parents want to get rid of me. Like, so I remember that same week, my dad was like, did you like call a recruiter? And I remember I called them up, and they're like, how about you swing by today? Because, they have quotas to make. It's like car sales. So they're like, come on in, girl. Like, let's talk to you. And I talked to them, and they made me feel really like comfortable about the experience. They answered all my questions. And I remember I was like, this is something I could feel fulfilled in. Like, I feel like I would be like doing right, because obviously the world is crazy right now, but I've always been someone that like, I love the USA. Like I am so lucky to have grown up the way I have in this country. And I felt like, you know what, giving back would be something really awesome. And before you knew it,
Thanks for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank me for my service.
Yes.
So yeah, and then from there, it's like, that's all she wrote. And I joined, and I went to boot camp June 22nd. I officially left, but boot camp started June 23rd of 2015.
So what is that process like? So basically you go in, you get recruited. It's like a sorority. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had bid day. It was really, I went Kaio. So
oh, my God.
Yeah, so basically, I went in, I talked with the recruiters. You have to basically fill a background check, essentially. Okay. And I did all that, and then you go to something called MEPS, and I could honestly not even tell you what MEPS stands for right now, but it's basically like your intaking process. So you have to do things like, for example, like the Air Force people that were there had to be able to lift like 100 pounds over their head because, they're loading bombs onto planes and things like that. Obviously, you got to get your height and weight checked.
So it's kind of like a physical test.
Yeah. Okay. It's not even and then it's like mental health. Gotcha. You want to see what you want to do. You talk to the other people that are in whatever branch that you want to join. There's people that work there. You could get blood work done. You gotta, do a drug test. The worst part about it is there's a doctor who's 80 years old and he has to literally check your butthole. I'm I don't know why, but okay. And then they make you literally in your underwear and bra, you have to duck walk. So they make sure your joints are fine or whatever. I mean, it was so long ago. I just remember being this is so weird. So you do that initially, and you take the ASVAB when you're there too.
I have a question about the butthole check. I'm not going to stop thinking about it until now. What do they do? Do they?
Oh, finger up the butthole to check. I don't know why, but they do that.
Oh, wow.
They literally.
Trigger warning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's I don't know medically. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but apparently we gotta make sure that's all good down there. Everyone had to get it done. I'm talking guys too.
Interesting.
And then I'm pretty sure the guys had to even get their regions checked and all that. So yeah, definitely they screen you for just about everything. I'm talking driving record, all of that. Any criminal history, they do that. Have you ever smoked weed? Have you done drugs and things like that?
What would they do if you said yes?
So I know people that had said yes, but it was so far prior to it. Because it's really about if you can pass your drug tests when you're there and you're clean and everything that. So they always say be honest but not too honest, because they don't they're not putting you on a lie detector or anything like that. It's very voluntary what you choose to share with them as far as your answers to your questions. But yeah, and then you take the ASVAB, which is a 3-hour test. It's doing the SATs, and then from there you get your job options from how you do. And I completely bombed it. I've never been a good test taker.
Same girl.
I've always been the creative. I'm can I write a creative piece for you? I'll be good. But it was all mathematics and coding stuff, and you have to click something when you see a light flash in this box, and I was just okay,
overwhelming.
This is overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I didn't do great, but obviously there were still job options for me. So yeah, so I picked my job, and then I was in the DEP program. So we would meet every couple weeks at the recruiting station, and we'd go over questions who is the command or the CNO, and who is the MCPON, what is your 5th general order, and things like that. They were just getting you ready for going into boot camp, because boot camp is literally all about repetition and memorization of things. And honestly, the things you learn in boot camp don't actually apply to the actual military, or at least the Navy in my experience. Obviously, you're supposed to know your general orders and the sailor's creed and everything like that, but you're not being asked those things on a daily basis once you're actually out in the fleet and you're working. You're literally you're working, you're turning and burning when you're actually out there, and you get a lot of on-the-job training once you're finally through. But yeah, so I was in the DEP program for a few months, and then my date came.
What does that look like?
So it was just every couple of weeks we would go to the recruiting station, we'd meet, or we'd go on a group hike on a Saturday morning or something like that. Just kind of organized.
It's a preparation
period? Yes, preparation period, essentially. And then, yeah, I remember, so I was in Rochester, New Hampshire. That's where I grew up. And the closest MEP station to me was Portland, Maine, about 40 minutes from where I live. So that is where I left from. And I just remember being so sad. It was so exciting, but so sad, because I had never been away from home for more than a trip. And it was usually with my family growing up. So I was oh my goodness, this is real life now. Mm-hmm. So it was cool. Like my mom and dad were there, and then my grandfather, my dad's dad, he came to, they watched me swear in, and then from there I had to like, you know, say my goodbyes in a hallway of like a glorified like hospital looking like place. And then they take us to the airport, and then we literally waited for our flight to the Chicago O'Hare Airport.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. So moving then, having said that you haven't really spent much time away from your family, I think a lot of people going to the military, moving to a new city, literally going anywhere, feel a lot of sense of homesickness.
I was so homesick, an adult. Especially like being on that plane ride, because you don't take much with you. You're going to boot camp. They give you everything. You send back the clothes you're in that day and your phone and everything. Like anything you bring with you, you're sending back.
Wow.
So I just remember because boot camp for me was in Great Lakes, Illinois. So that's why we fly into Chicago O'Hare. And then, you know, it's crazy. It's like it starts. Like the second you get off that plane, it begins. Like they took us to the USO, and the USO people are like so kind, like the little volunteers. And they're like, you guys are going to do great. Like get yourself some snacks. And then next thing you know, they're escorting us down to like this. I remember that it's like this dark and dim area of Chicago O'Hare Airport over by like where ride pickup is. And I just remember it was the guys and like they looked all nice. They're in their uniforms, and they just started being like, all right, you got 15 minutes. And like the girls were running to the Starbucks being like, I need to get my last Starbucks.
Oh my gosh.
And I was a Dunkin's girl. So I was like, what is this Starbucks hype? And they had us all sit crisscross applesauce, like in rows. And we had to be silent, and we had to hold our like folders we got from our MEP station with like all of our information in it.
Wow.
And then they loaded us up on a bus, and they were like, no phones, like shut your cell phones off, like no talking. And they had on the bus playing a bunch of videos of like what different hairstyles you could wear, like or a woman could get their hair cut, how like grooming standards were, how uniforms were supposed to look. And then I just remember we parked in front of a building on the base, and they were basically yelling at us to hurry up and get out. They lined us up down a hallway. They said, this is your last phone call, and your last phone call until you get to call your parents, like whether that's in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever your recruit division commanders would let you go call your parents. So, and we had to stick to a script. So I'm like a robot.
Oh,
like
I'm in script?
It was like a script. And I remember I'm like shaking, and I'm like, hi, Mom and Dad. I have arrived safely to Recruit Training Command at RTC Great Lakes. And they're like, are you okay? Like, I'm like, I love you. I can't talk to you anymore. I have to hang up now. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I had like tears in my eyes. Some people were bawling their eyes out. Some people didn't even have family to call. It was because you got to remember, people were flying in from all over the country to come to like the start of boot camp. It's not just like people in little old New Hampshire. It was quite literally people from all over the country. So it was just crazy because I was like, in my head, I'm like, how do people not have someone to call? But it's like, they legitimately had no one to call.
And it kind of helps you recognize like the privilege of growing up with a supportive family and people around you. Definitely. So, I can't imagine that that moment of just like uncertainty.
Oh, because it's like you hear all the stories like from people or like anyone like when they would come into the recruiting station because they were home for the holidays or something like that.
Yeah.
Or home visiting, and they'd come in and tell you about their experience, and you're just like, you get so overwhelmed with like these like thoughts of like, oh my gosh, like what is happening next? Like what is about to happen? And they quite literally kept us up for like 36 hours, like when we were first there. I had never been so excited to go to bed in my life. I went to bed at it was like an 8 p.m. like bedtime, and then we were up at 4 a.m. that next day. But I just remember I conked out, and I was like, okay, day one down. Like, I definitely took everything just like day by day.
Okay. And speaking of your day by day, so once you started getting into boot camp, and then after boot camp, then you start your real like your full-time job.
So you essentially go to training. So because I didn't score very high on the ASVAB, I got to do something called an undesignated program. So basically, you don't have a rate. Like what rate is like our job, like MOS is like some of the branches say. So I didn't have a rate. So people look down on that like, oh, they're so stupid or anything like that. And I was just told kind of like the horror stories of, oh, you're going to work for deck department. So like you're going to be, you know, very hands-on, like you're going to work long hours, you're going to be tired. And I'm thinking to myself like, oh, hands-on, that's nothing. Like I played sports my whole life, like physical labor, like that sounds like my day will go by fast.
Yeah.
And so deck department was always known as the undes people, the bosun's mates, which I ended up becoming. And then all the buds dropouts, like the Navy SEAL dropouts, they'd always get assigned to usually be undes. And then, yeah, like if a department on the ship, like say someone was an admin and they had a guy that, you know, was like effing around all the time and not getting work done, they would punish them by sending them to my department because they were like, here, let's have you go do some physical labor. But yeah, so from boot camp, I went to the training command. I went across the street to the training command in Great Lakes, where I did it was a 4-week course, just basically kind of showing you the ins and outs of like what ship life will be, especially for being undesignated, because like it's a lot of dangerous stuff we would deal with. Like you don't realize like literally those even like with cruise ships, those lines that like tie you, well, it's called mooring, but tie you up to the pier, those things can kill you. Like they can snap and they can kill you. So it was just learning a lot about like safety. And how like paramount safety is. It's like one of the biggest things with the military is safety. Obviously you hear about all the mishaps that happen, and that's never good. If it's on the news, it's probably bad. That's like the whole military motto. But yeah, and then from there, I remember it was like the last 3 weeks of boot camp is when we got our assignments on where we were going after training, and I was like, please don't be Virginia. Like, I felt like Harry Potter when he's like, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. I was like waiting. I'm like, please don't be Norfolk, Virginia.
When
please.
You were saying that you basically find out like your placement, all I could think of was in Harry Potter.
Yes, absolutely.
I haven't watched Harry Potter in so long. Honestly.
Absolutely.
I'm not like
Harry Potter. I was Gabby Connolly. I was waiting, and a lot of people were not like, people opening their stuff in front of me and like getting it read off to them. It's like a bid card. Yes, literally, it's like a bid card, and everyone was like literally getting like a lot. There was a lot of the corpsmen, which are the nurses. Okay. So they were getting their station down in San Antonio, is where they go for training with Air Force and the Army. They all do their like nursing training there. So they were just like, okay, cool. Like I knew I was going there because of my job. But for me, like, I was legitimately getting my assignment because my training course was only 4 weeks. Yeah, and I just remember being like, everyone was getting Norfolk, Virginia, and I was like, please no. I was like, please no. And I remember the girl in front of me, she got the USS Boxer, which is a ship I was actually on. She got the USS Boxer in San Diego, California, and I was like, dang it, like, what if that was the one billet for San Diego? And they got to me and they're like, oh, you're going to the USS Boxer too. And I was like, hell yeah. Yes. And I remember I was like, can I please, like, because my dad was like so excited. He's like, I really hope you're in San Diego, because one of his best childhood friends ended up moving out there with his family, like, I think now like 12 or 13 years ago. So my dad had visited for work, and he just fell in love with the city. And it was almost like it was for my dad. I had never been to San Diego. I just knew it was cool, like really fun there. And nice. I was like, can I please call my parents? And they're like, fine. They let me like go in the little boot camp like
Did
office.
You have a script for it?
No, I did not have a script. I was like, hey, it's me. And they're like, oh my gosh. I was like, I can't talk long, but I'm going to San Diego. And my parents were like, oh my goodness, like that's so great. And I remember I was like so happy, like, and it's like crazy because I was happy about something like I didn't even know. It was like a complete unknown. I just knew it was a really good place to be. And then you saw the people for Virginia, and they're like, ugh. But then there was a lot of people from the area, so they're like, oh yeah, I'm happy with Virginia. Like I'm gonna be within an hour of family, so I'm like, that's cool. I'm literally gonna be across the country now. But oh wow.
The question that we all want to know this fall: do we like the platform Uggs? I don't know. I can't say that I was a huge fan until I saw them on Hailey Bieber. And now I'm seeing these platform Uggs literally everywhere I go. So if you're like me and you're looking to get some new shoes for the fall, You are in luck because Macy's Great Shoe Sale is here, just in time to debut your fall statement shoes. The Great Shoe Sale is only happening from October 5th to October 12th. Mark your calendar and head on over to macys.com/shoes. If you buy one pair, you get 30% off. Buy two pairs, you get 40% off. Basically, you save the more that you shop. So bring a few new additions into your fall rotation. Whether it's platform Uggs, a pair of cowboy boots, a new pair of sneakers for those workout classes or your hot girl walks, a pair of patent leather loafers, or knee-high boots, Macy's has it all. Again, that is macys.com/shoes, and my favorites are at macys.com/FOW.
Do you feel almost as if, like, when you went to college, you tried to, play baseball and it didn't work out, and you felt like you were kind of not like disappointing your dad, but it was like a way you connected to him? Do you almost feel as though getting placed in San Diego was kind of like filling that?
So I've never connected it like that, but I felt really upset. Like, I felt like I completely let my whole family down, let alone like my dad. And there's something about, like, if I let down my mom, I'd be like, sorry, Mom, I let you down. But when it's your
daddy's
dad,
girl,
I'm like, oh, it's like the knife and twist. Like, I just felt so like bad. And like both my parents are amazing people, and like my dad is probably the nicest person. Like, if you meet anyone like in the vicinity of New England who knows my dad, they're like, he is the nicest person ever. Like, so it was just like knowing that we lost that like kind of bond. Yeah, it was really sad. I was like,
and kind of found it
but
a
then,
little bit.
Yeah, but then it was like he had something it was a different way of being proud. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was. And then being in San Diego, he was just so excited.
So you go to San Diego and you do your training there.
No, training was in Illinois.
Oh, training was in Illinois.
And then I went to San Diego to my first ship.
And this was like right when you started. You're getting into the thick of it. You're a working girl.
Into the thick of it, literally. My first day in San Diego, my ship was actually out at sea. Like,
and so you're living on a ship, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Literally, like if anyone wants to experience it, like there's a meme that's out there, like literally just buy a dumpster and live in it for like a week, and that's like what ship life is.
My goodness.
Like you're literally just on this like steel beast.
How frequently did you get off of the ship?
Okay, so when you're in port, when we were in San Diego, as long as we didn't have duty, which we had duty every 8 days when I was on the Boxer, we got to leave like after working hours.
Gotcha.
And not everyone lives on the ship. Like, it's really just those new people because you don't have barracks rooms ready for you. Okay. So it's quite literally like sororities. Like, there's no room for you in the house yet. Like, you got to wait a little bit before you can live here.
This is so interesting to me. Okay, so you start your job, and what would you describe your day-to-day kind of schedule like?
So my first day on board, I worked from the second I stepped on board. Like, I don't even think I knew people's names, and they were like, grab those chains, start bringing them in this closet over here, and I just remember there was just 20 people dragging in these rusty chains from like the Humvees.
You have your tetanus shot?
Yeah, we got our tetanus shots. Oh, trust me, we got all the shots in boot camp. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, like,
what am I getting into?
What is this? I was like, okay, cool. So I remember I just like got into working. I remember like 6 p.m. rolled around, and I was like, are we done yet? And they're like, girl, we're in in-serve, which is a huge inspection for a ship, like pre-deployment. But yeah, they're like, girl, no, we're in in-serve. We have like a couple weeks left. Like, we're working 6 days a week. Like, we're only having Sundays off. And I just remember standing there being like, I was like, what did I sign up for? Like, this is not what I was told. And that day we worked until 10:30 p.m.
Oh my God.
And then we got up. I had a muster at 3:30 in the morning. So quite literally only had a few hours of sleep. I remember I got in my little tiny rack. Like, I'll show you pictures of what they look like. But my little rack, I go in it, and I remember I cried. I was like, what is this? Like, this is horrible. Like, I'm working like 18-hour days. I'm like, I am not cut out for this. Like, my goodness. And yeah. And then obviously the inspection ended, and then I was like, okay, this is normalcy. Like, then it was just, okay, you're working Monday through Friday and things like that. But yeah, a typical day was always get up around 6 a.m. You'd muster, which was like the roll call.
At first, I thought you said you had mustard at 3 a.m. and I was like, that's fucking gross.
No,
I
mustard.
was picturing you.
So no, not squirting French's mustard in my mouth, but no.
I realized when you said
so it's basically
mustard.
like attendance,
okay.
Like in school, like how they would
like in the movies.
Yes, how they would go around and take attendance. So we'd all be in line and they'd call out our last names. You'd say like here, present. Or just say your last name back. So a typical day was always about, early is on time in the Navy. So you'd be there, ready to go like 6:45, 6:50. They'd put out all announcements, put out work assignments for the day around 7 a.m., 07 if you want to get real technical. And then, we would typically work until about 4 p.m., 1600. But obviously we got a lunch. Like we'd usually have like a 2-hour lunch, which was awesome just because when you're on a ship and you're eating on the ship, those chow lines get so long and you're just waiting and waiting and wait. Sometimes you'll wait like 30 minutes just to get your food and then you have to sit down and eat and, and gather yourself before you have to get back to work.
Gotcha. So each day you would have your work assignment that would be given to you. So each day basically it would look pretty different then, or were there a handful of things that you did every single day?
Yeah, so there was like a big thing on the ship is always doing like we would do sweepers. It literally is what it is. We would be glorified janitors and we'd go around and clean our spaces just so that our ship always looked presentable because you never know who's going to come on board. You don't know if the Commodore is going to come on board. Who knows? The president might come on board. Who knows if he's in town? Like, I mean, it's a government vessel. So we always kept it in tip-top shape. So we would do that about twice a day. And then every day things like we had to get our boat report done, which we would have, so literally picture this, like a giant boat, like almost like a cruise ship looking thing. And then we had 2 little boats that were attached and we could lower them into the water. And like it was fun because on deployment, you could go rip around in the middle of the ocean. And so we'd have to do the boat report to make sure there was fuel in those boats because those are used in emergency situations for man overboard. Like if someone were to fall in the water, we're getting that boat lowered into the water in all of like 2 minutes. And that's from like running to the to where the boat is and like, taking all the safety precautions and getting it in the water because guess what? If someone falls in the water, you only get a small amount of time to go get them. There was a lot of things that were done daily like that.
Gotcha.
But for the most part, it was more projects. Like we'd have like, hey, let's try to have the deadline for painting this whole space be in like 2 weeks. And I'm talking that is bust and rust. Like we're using like
so it's a lot of manual, physical
for what
labor.
What I personally did. Obviously, there's some people that are blessed that are in admin and they're a yeoman or a personnel specialist and they're helping with people with pay or their ID cards or they can't log into their NSIPS account or something like that. So they're helping route paperwork because anytime you want to take time off, there's paperwork. There's a ton of admin that goes into it. So obviously those people are more of like a desk job and they have their desks. They're in an office that was most likely air conditioned on the ship, which was nice, where I was like, we were turning wrenches, doing the dirty work. But in a sense, I feel like it's like kind of admirable. Like it taught me a lot of discipline. Like it was way different than I ever pictured it would be. I never thought it was going to be like what it was, if that makes sense. And I could go on for days about like the different things we did. Yeah. But I mean,
I do think it's very admirable. Like someone has to do it.
Oh, someone has to do it. Like there's always that like dirty job. There's quite literally a rate called a hull technician. They're HTs and they deal with the plumbing. They literally deal with plumbing. Like they have to deal with when the toilets are overflowing. Like literally the shit end of the stick, literally and figuratively. Like
there's someone for everything.
There's quite literally someone for everything.
It's really cool to hear from you too, because there's just so much that I didn't know about, and now it gives me a whole different perspective and like gratitude for people that do go to the military. Like I think, I mean, a lot of people, you think about the military and there's like a couple things that come to mind, right?
You think of like Navy SEALs and you think of like people in Afghanistan, which like props to them and like absolutely God bless them and all the people that are overseas. I mean, I didn't necessarily do that, but people don't understand that every single enlisted person and officer in the Navy or the Air Force, now the Space Force, the Marines, the Army, everything works towards the bigger picture. Like, yes, everyone's like, you're just a number. You can always be replaced. The boots will come off one day because, everyone has to retire eventually or they get out. But people don't understand that everyone's role is very vital to the overall mission for the whole country. So I always get really sad when people are like, oh, well, I was in the military, but I didn't do much. I'm like, well, you did something. Like, you contributed in some sort of way. Like, yeah, you might not have done like 4 tours in Afghanistan or Iraq, or you might not have been a Navy like SEAL or in Marine Recon, but that doesn't mean you didn't do something that was, just as fulfilling to you and very impactful. So
that's amazing. Good for you. And thank you. Seriously, again. So you said that once things died down, you started working Monday through Friday. And you said you were typically done around like 4 p.m.
Yeah. And I mean, that was always subject to change. Like, I worked for, like, the department I worked for and the people I worked for were pretty great about, when we're, busting our ass Monday through Thursday, like, they try to get us out of there early on Friday. Because it's kind of the unwritten rule in at least the Navy that, like, early Fridays, you try to get everyone out of there, enjoy their weekend, especially if someone has weekend duty and has to stay on the ship for the 24 hours and stand watch. Like, let's give them a day, and you can get things done. They would always say, like, oh, if you're going to get your oil change or go to the bank, save it for Friday and things like that to mitigate people having to leave work. But
yeah. So working a job that is basically completely manual labor, you're constantly tired and exhausted physically. Like, I'm curious to hear from you because you've been following me from the very beginning. Like, what fun on weekdays means to you when you think back to your time in the military and also like your life now, because we're going to get to it, but she doesn't work in the military anymore. But during this time, for anyone that's listening that does have this type of job that, like, every single day after work, you're like, I have no fucking time for fun because I'm tired.
Oh, yeah. So obviously, like, when you first get to, like, your command and you're on a ship, at least, for the Navy, I'm speaking from Navy's perspective, you live on the ship when you first get there because there's no barracks rooms for you yet. Like, you have to earn that. You got to, have a little time in before they're going to give you a barracks room or anything like that. So fun on weekdays, I guess, had a way different meaning for me when I first joined because it was either you chose to eat on the ship for dinner and just chill up on the flight deck or chill on, like, one of the walkways and, like, be able to use your phone. But that's all you can do. There's no service inside the ship.
Gotcha.
Or it was like you pretty much went out all the time, whether it was literally just to, go sit somewhere and drink a coffee or, go to the bars, like go out to restaurant, like go to dinner with friends and go out. And obviously base has a lot of activities like rec centers and like little libraries and things like that. So it's really like, I remember I was so focused on like wanting to make friends so badly when I first got to my command.
And are most of your friends from this period of your life, they're people that were also on the ship? It wasn't people that you met like in the city when you're going out?
No, it's the people that I was friends with were the people that I was working around every day. Whether we were in the same department or not, my friends came from the ship. Like, they're the people you got to know,
Yeah, you have so much to talk about because no one else understands.
Trust me, and that's another thing. The military is like high school. Like, there was always drama. You were always hearing something about someone, and you just always hoped it wasn't about you. So I would go out like a lot when I first joined, and I was only 20. So for my first few months, I was only 20, and then I turned 21, and I quite literally would always go. Like, we were always out. Like, the Navy anchors away. Like, our legitimate theme song, it says "Drink to the foam" in it. Like, sailors can drink, and I was doing that for a while. It was just because that's what everyone did. The people you wanted to be around were all doing that. And then you grow up, and then I went on deployment, and I'm in all these foreign countries, and I'm like, wait, like, there's more. Like, every country looks the same inside a bar. Like, you don't need to be in a bar. Like, go out and do things. Like,
good point, girl.
So definitely at first it was like, oh, the bar scene, the fun scene, and obviously San Diego's so fun. So like, there's, you can go to a different place every single night. But as I grew up, I realized like the people that really want to be your friends and be like good coworkers too, they're not gonna be asking you to go to the bar every single night. Like, I don't know. I guess I kind of turned into a homebody though towards the end of being in, because it's one of those things. I got burnt out from doing the whole always going out, always trying to fit in with the people around me kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like you stop going out and some of these people don't want to be friends with you anymore. It's just like college. Like, I'm sure everyone in college had that friend that was just like a crazy party animal, and they were the person you hung out with when you wanted to go party.
Yeah. And then one day that switches, and then
it switches, and then you're lame, and then you're like, well, sorry, I like to go to bed at 9 p.m. Like,
but that's just the whole thing that like I've talked about before, is that everyone's perception of like fun and being a fun person is so subjective. And at this stage in our life, especially at like 21 years old, like in college, you know, and you're probably also thinking of your friends back home that are in college that are going to college
because
bars.
my friends were, you know, they were out for. They were doing Wasted Wednesday and Thirsty Thursday.
It's crazy. Like,
frat parties on Friday. Like,
it's just really wild, and I have nothing against it. Like, I literally went to a concert last night, and I had like a tequila Sprite. I had 2 actually, and I took a shot, and
you're like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, and I have like a much better relationship with alcohol now, but you start to recognize things in yourself. You're like, why am I so anxious? Like, why am I always so tired? Why am I always so sluggish? And then when you start cutting it out, you start being like, whoa, like I feel.
Or the anxiety.
Again. Oh. Yes, like I feel life again. I don't feel anxious and that anxiety that we all talk about. And it's so wild, like that we encourage this culture of like the drinking culture, and that when you don't want to go out all the time, then you're just automatically boring, you're lame, you're not fun. And it really does show you, you know, who the people are that you want to be surrounded by.
Well, and that's like the whole drinking culture, like in the military in general. I feel like even when like I was in my party phase and like new people would come to the boat and they're like, oh, I don't drink, or like I don't go out, like I have a family, like, you know what I mean? I remember being in my head like, oh, that's so lame. Like, oh, come on, be fun. Like, you know what I mean? Because, but like you've talked about before, like your definition of fun changes. So now it's like, I'm in San Diego. Like, I live right by the aquarium. Like, I love the aquarium. Like, I could probably go once a week. And I
love that for you.
So fulfilled with that. Or the San Diego Zoo is quite literally awesome. There's
always
things to do. There's always activities. I mean, just going to the beach, like every beach is a little bit different in San Diego too. So it's like, you know, you grow up a little bit, like, and you realize like you need to take in these things around you. And it's almost like a thing where I'm just really grateful for where I'm at because of the military. Like, if not, I would have never have packed up and gone to San Diego. No way. Absolutely not.
I think that's also a really powerful thing to discover on your own as well. And figure that out. Like, come to that realization because you truly are at a place in your life where you're looking within and you're like, okay, why am I feeling like unfulfilled? And then you look at your patterns and you look at things that you've been doing and you're like, wait, this isn't really fueling me anymore. And then you start opening your eyes to a world around you, and it helps you like live life a little bit more opportunistic, I guess.
Yeah.
So you were in the military for 7 years.
It's just about, I'm like, if you want to get technical, it's like 29 days shy of 7 years, but I mean, who's counting?
No, we'll round up for you. So, and how did you determine that like you were ready for the next stage of your life?
I absolutely, so I will never rag on the Navy. I love the Navy and every single experience it gave me. I now have free college. I will now have free healthcare. I will now get disability paychecks monthly. Because of my service, and I am forever grateful for that. But when it's so cool and eye-opening to be around people from every single walk of life, but you're also around, I mean, my mom always tells me it's like that in every workplace, but there are some people that are just so draining all the time, and they're just such angry people, and it's like kind of sad because it's like, do you really feel like this because I, like, you just sucked the life out of me just from coming to work today. Like, how do you do this every single day? How are you happy? Like, so I'm like really big on mental health, and I'm really like in tune with my mental health, and I am totally okay with like talking about it. started feeling a rut like pretty much after my first enlistment. I started having that unfulfilled feeling, not so much with the Navy, just kind of like my friend group, my life, my relationships, like not being home and like with family, starting to miss out on graduations and friends getting engaged at back home and things like that. So I kind of had that like rut of like unfulfillment again, but like not, it's like very complicated. So not towards the Navy, but just like in life.
Yeah.
And
there's different types of unfulfillment. I seriously just like, this last week's episode was about that. And to me, it sounds like you were just losing the fulfillment of like community.
Yep.
And feeling like you have like a place within people that you feel like comfortable and supported by and motivated by.
Absolutely. So, I just had a really big decline in my mental health to the point where I was actually taken away from the ship I was on and I was placed on shore duty. And my job was like admin work. Like I was taken away from my normal everyday job that I was used to doing on the ship. I basically did admin work and my job was to, you know, go to therapy. I was in group therapies, and things like that to try to better myself. And I felt like I never crawled out of that hole like I dug myself into mentally. And I realized, like, after talking with, like, you know, doctors and therapists and things like that, I was like, I love the Navy, but I just don't think I can. I felt bad because I loved the Navy, but I was taking away from a spot for someone that truly wanted to be there. You know what I mean? So I felt really guilty in that sense because I got so much out of it. Yeah, I mean, I saw so many beautiful countries. I went on deployment. I did a lot for myself. And I just had this, like, I felt so ungrateful, but I realized, you know, later on that a lot of people go through this. Like a lot of people in the military, you know, do have like a lot of mental health issues. That's why like we have a veterans suicide hotline. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really crazy. It's different. Like people think like it stems from just the military in general, but it's a lot more than that. It's a lot of the, you know, working for someone who doesn't even know how to talk to people, like, and they're cussing at you constantly and you're like, that's not a leader. And obviously I've worked with so many amazing people where I'm like, I absolutely want to be like them, like one day, and how like cool, calm, and collected they are and how soft-spoken and wise they are. But then everyone I worked for that was horrible, I'm like, you know what, thank you, because I know exactly how I don't want to be in a leadership role. I fell into a really big rut, and I will admit it, like I was very depressed. Like my anxiety is still bad, my depression getting better, but it's really different. And everyone I talk to, every single one of my friends that has been in the military and has gotten out, all experience this. Like it's like depression and anxiety and just, you know, suicidal thoughts and stuff amongst veterans is like a really serious thing. Like I think the VA, the, you know, Veterans Affairs, has gone in the right direction of really trying to, you know, help the whole mental health stigma and really help veterans, which is great. But I think there's still like a lot to be done on this journey, because I mean, mental health is a journey. So
yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because you know, obviously not everybody wants to sit behind a microphone and just share their like deepest feelings. That's like a personal thing, but I also do know that your words will also like impact the thousands of people that listen to this. And I'm sure
people that, you know, work a corporate job or they're in college, I'm sure they feel the same way. Like I think I've been depressed for a while, probably since my whole college stuff, and I've had anxiety, but I didn't know. I didn't know what it actually was, because I watched my family just always be such a happy, loving, amazing family. And in the back of my head, it's like, we could never be depressed. We could never have anxiety, you know? Like, we grew up so well.
And the guilt of that too, not allowing yourself to actually feel your feelings because you're invalidating them, because you're like, well, wait, I am looking at my life in comparison to other people and I know that I have it so good, but like still, and then that thought allows you to suppress those feelings, and over time it builds up. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, regardless of what your career is. But I'm sure the military adding like an additional type of stress that I mean, I could never relate to that. You know, I could never feel that.
here's the thing. My job on the ship, like I said, I could go into it in the nitty gritty, but it was a very dangerous job. Like, your head's not in it. You're not paying attention. You could quite literally get the person next to you killed during some exercises we would do. So that's what that was my biggest thing. Like, when I was submitting my package to get out of the Navy, and kind of explain like why I wanted to get out on the route that I did, like, getting out early, for like mental health reasons. That's one of the biggest things I hit on. I was like, I absolutely love the Navy and I love everything it's given me, but I can't perform my job to the 100% ability that I should be. And the last thing I want to do is be the reason why someone was hurt or like worse, killed or anything like that. So I feel like it's also like really good self-awareness that I could like recognize that, because it's so sad. Like, you hear like there's like the suicide rate in the military and let alone the whole world is way too high. It is way too high. Like, one is absolutely too many. And it breaks my heart every time that I hear that there's, a sailor or a Marine or someone that has like, trigger warning, committed suicide. Because, they didn't have that self-awareness. So I'm really grateful, like, instinctually that I have that self-awareness for myself. Right.
That's, like, a very difficult thing to recognize in yourself. Absolutely. So I think it's great that you were able to and kind of, like, save yourself and put yourself before something that you were very passionate about. Like, that's hard to leave a job that you do love. Yeah. But I feel like ultimately you knew it was the right choice and like you needed to do that in order to be able to live your life to the fullest extent. Absolutely. Following the next chapter. Oh yeah. Well, following the military, how was it for you rediscovering now what you're passionate about? Because you did it for like almost 7 years by 29 days.
Yeah. So actually when I was in the military is when I like started my small business venture. It was like my side thing. Oh, girl. So I was just like, it's like that sound where it's like, I've never been relaxed in my life. Literally me. I think that stems from like just my personality in general, and then also like the anxiety of like you be doing something,
So you crave chaos.
Yes. So it was like back in November, I randomly was like, I'm going to start an events page. So I started really small of just doing like pop-up shops, like, like not like farmers markets, but setting up at a brewery, like finding a couple vendors, and like I would coordinate it all with the brewery and things like that. And then I was like, I just so want to be in weddings. You know what I mean? Like I'm a hopeless romantic. I love. And I think like putting on a big production is like so cool. I mean, you've seen it with the events like you've hosted. And yeah, so I hit up a local girl in San Diego and I was like, hey, do you like need an assistant or do you want to like teach someone? And she's like, actually, yes. And me and her have become like really great friends, and she really mentored me, and she's really got me like on my feet with everything. And I remember like after the first wedding I did with her, she's like, oh girl, she's like, you're good, you got it down packed. Like, and I think that's like the discipline I've learned from the Navy. Okay. And just like attention to detail. Because like I've always been like the planner friend of my group. Like I'm like, all right, on October 25th of 2023, like we are doing this and this is our itinerary. And they're like, whoa, that's like 13 months out. Like, let's chill. And I'm like, but we got to plan it.
There's always one person in the friend group. Yep. And no one ever wants to be that person, but the one person
I want to wholeheartedly. I'm like, give it to me. Like, because when other people like, you can't see my face like through the podcast, but I'm just like, when other people are like, oh, I'll take care of it. I'm like, have you booked? I'm like, what? No, please don't. I'm like, it's like the anxiety kicks in. But yeah, so I pretty much took off running from like all of her help, and I still go to her for anything. Like, heck, she's even come to me about stuff, like asking me questions, because everyone operates differently. So yeah, that's I am a wedding planner and coordinator and event planner.
Love that. Over in San Diego, for any of our San Diego fiancés looking for an event planner.
Seriously, hit me up.
I love that.
Events by Gabrielle LLC. Follow me on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah, we got to plug her, of course. Of course. So just comparing like your life now, because obviously you're doing events, it's like a little bit more sporadic. Your schedule looks different than super disciplined in the military. Like how would you say that Fun on Weekdays now applies to your life?
So now I find myself having a lot of time during the week because I guess no one really tells you how hard it is to start your own business, especially in an industry where your events are like Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Yeah.
So
your weekdays are your weekends.
My weekdays like are my weekends now. So now I look at it as like I can do stuff for me. I can go get a pedicure. Like I can take care of admin stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like I can relax. I can catch up on some shows where my weekends are now like really go and like exhausting in a way, especially like weekends that I have events. So yeah, it's like my weekdays are now my weekends, and it's kind of nice. No, like growing up, I would have never have thought like I know. I'm telling you, like there's something about having a Monday off. I don't know what it is, but it is so nice. I'm like,
it's very nice, and it's also like quiet too. When I think of the weekends, like I often think of it being like kind of chaotic. You know, like everyone's out, everyone wants to know like what's going on. You're trying to jam pack so much stuff into like 2.5 days that you have. And then,
or you feel guilty about not doing anything on the weekends because you feel like it's your time you're supposed to be going and doing things.
That's a good point too.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I never feel guilty about sitting around on a Tuesday night, but you give me a Saturday night, I'm like, wait, scratching my head. I'm like, what should I do?
Or you're like hitting up like random people you haven't even hit up and you're like, what are you up to? And they're like, I don't even live in San Diego anymore. And you're like, oh, have fun.
Oh, just kidding. I was just asking like,
yeah, but no, it's definitely different. I know like a lot of the girls from the podcast page have actually reached out to me about like wedding and event planning. And I can totally tell that some are like, oh, it's like my weekends are shot. It's like, kind of stinks. But you know, it's like you find time to do the things you want, like just different. And honestly, running errands during the week, during the day is so much more pleasant than, doing it like on a weekend or like after work with like rush hour and things like that. I feel like I have a newfound zen. Like I'm not gonna lie, the first few weeks I was out of the Navy, I felt very lost. I was like, what am I doing? Should I have gotten out? Like, did I make the right choice? It's like you just question. And now I'm like, okay, this is nice. Like I would be like, I'd be at work for another 4 hours still right now. And like, you know, like, and I'm already done like everything I need to for the day. So
well, I love to hear that you're happy and you're like doing better. It sounds like, do you feel as though event planning does kind of fulfill that void that you've always been kind of trying to find?
Yeah, because I think a big thing with softball is like the team aspect of it all and the competitiveness too. And same with the Navy. It's a team. Like you're quite literally, it's a bunch of individuals coming together for a common goal and to meet the mission. So I think it's just such a cool journey from like starting with a client to literally the last minutes of their wedding day, because you get to see everything completely unfold. And it is like a teamwork kind of journey, because you know you're making sure they have the vendors, you're getting in touch with those vendors, you're making sure everything
you're building
is
the team.
Yeah, you're building the team, and you're quite literally making sure everything goes so smooth on one of the most important days of their life. Like, you know, like my thing is like, I'm your wedding bestie. Like if you need a shoulder to cry on, I got you. If you need someone to vent to, I got you. And I'm not going to let anyone ruin your day. Like I'm going to step in.
Like, you learned that from your other leaders.
Yeah. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, just generally speaking, like the military was just a chapter of your life that is now going to allow you to flourish in other areas of your life. And, and like the stability of it, the aspect of like free healthcare and those types of things. Yes. Because, you know, obviously that's something that a lot of people struggle with. If your job, like event planning, if you are working for yourself, you don't typically have that. No. So it really did kind of set you up for this life that you can now create for yourself. And it's
absolutely.
so great to like hear so much about your story, because I'm like, oh my God, should I join the military?
Oh, no, girl, you have a good thing going. You don't need the military.
Well, I think it does really help shed light, though, to a lot of, you know, like the difficulties that come with not only the military, but just a job that is so physically taxing.
Yeah.
And how that can eventually, you know, affect your mental health as well. And just overall the idea of, you know, how you have fun with your life, because when that's all clouding your judgment, you know, not very fun to do other things.
Yeah, it's
sure.
Just...
Well, now you're here in Austin, and Gabby. I keep calling you Gabrielle
because that's fine.
That's your name in my phone, Gabrielle. The first time you texted me, it had like
this might be Gabrielle Connolly. Yep.
Yeah, but we're on the Gabby basis now. We're girls. We're besties. So Gabby is leaving Austin. She's going back to San Diego, but you had a really cool opportunity to come to Austin for, which
so I networked in the Fun on Weekdays podcast page.
Love to hear it.
I ended up doing a wedding out here in Austin, Texas at the Arlo. So if you're in Austin and you're looking to get married, the Arlo is absolutely beautiful and you should totally go check it out.
Yeah, I've never been.
It's pretty new. It's actually pretty new. I'm pretty sure it hasn't even been open 6 months.
Gotcha.
It's very new, but
check it out.
Yeah, it was an absolutely gorgeous wedding. The joke is the girl, the bride, and her mom, and then her dad, they're my Texas family now. So that's the joke. So I'm now you just need to come to San Diego.
Yeah.
Because now the big debate is Whataburger or In-N-Out.
Oh, what is your
California In-N-Out all day. I tried Whataburger, and I gave it a fair shot. I got the chicken sandwich, and I got the burger.
Was it the honey butter chicken biscuit?
No, I went. So the next morning I went back and everyone's I posted on Facebook and everyone's you gotta get the honey butter chicken biscuit. And I was okay. Yeah. And I got it and it was delicious, but I was my stomach now hurts.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Hangover food. It was hangover food.
It is. It's one of those things you eat it and you're I kind of regret that. But in the moment, it's the best thing you've ever tasted.
Yeah. Well, and then they were saying a lot of them haven't had In-N-Out in California. So they're well, In-N-Out here isn't that good. I'm that's so weird that it's different,
Interesting. But, okay, well, whenever I come and visit you in San Diego, I got to try it. But also, anyone listening,
you didn't try In-N-Out?
Not in California. I didn't know it was different. I thought it was the same thing. I'm
no,
I'm not very impressed by In-N-Out.
Different. There's lines down the road. Everyone is in line. I drove by an In-N-Out out here, and it was so sad. There was 2 cars in the drive-thru, and I was what is this?
Yeah, because everyone's at Whataburger.
Yeah, everyone's at Whataburger, and I was what is the hype? I gave it a 2.5 out of 10, and then I had the honey butter chicken biscuit, and I was okay, I see where they're going. This is drunk munchy food and hangover food. So for that, I give it a 5.
Oh my God, that's still pretty low. Okay, so we have a lot to do. I'm gonna come to San Diego. We're gonna get In-N-Out.
Yes, we're gonna get In-N-Out.
And anyone else, it sounds like Gabby is willing to travel too. So
yeah,
you got a wedding.
Yes, I will travel wherever. It'll be 50 dates, 50 states. It'll be 50 weddings, 50 states. And I'll just go around to all of them. Oh my gosh, wait.
That'd be so
cool. I gotta
get
on TikTok and make that now.
And I also love the fact that literally Fun on Weekdays brought us together.
Yes.
And the fact that it has meant something different to both of us and literally every single person ever at different stages of our lives. And the fact that it brought us together now, I think is a really cool, powerful thing that has happened, and I'm so happy to know you.
Yes, I know. Jenna would literally be in my MySpace top 10 now. So, I mean,
oh my God,
I know. But yeah, this has been so fun. I was so nervous, and now I'm just no. Can we talk for another 4 hours? Can we?
It's nice to hear yourself.
Are we gonna crack a mom water open?
Yeah, we could, girl.
Drink to the foam.
She's about to get onto her flight, and she's yeah, we're just
in the wise words of Dierks Bentley. We're getting drunk on a plane.
I love that. That's a good segue. And you know how I always end every episode?
Okay, I have one.
I feel like you've been preparing for this moment. Okay, so here's my official question, Gabby. What would you tell everyone that's listening to Fun on Weekdays podcast is your fun idea for everyone to do this week?
I think that everyone should try golfing.
Oh,
I love golf. I took it up during COVID. And I've absolutely fell in love with it. I think it's so fun. Obviously, it takes up a lot of time. But even mini golf, either go mini golfing or try something new. Go to a driving range. And single ladies, there are some cute men out on the driving range that just go up to them and be hey, could you just watch my swing? Could you give me a pointer? Hey,
can you move my positioning a little bit?
Yeah, literally. No, it's really fun. Because when I think of golf too, I think of business deals, how business partners will go golf together. I think it's a really great way to network with people. It's a super fun hobby, and it's not a super taxing sport on the body.
But it is still a little bit competitive.
Yes. And you can be. It's such a cute aesthetic too.
Yeah.
Oh, we love it.
Yeah, we love it. And it's also starting to get cool enough now where you're not going to absolutely drench yourself in sweat, so you actually can enjoy.
Yeah,
the actual activity instead of just sitting there oh God, getting excited to get in the golf cart to go to the next one because you'll get the breeze.
Yes. No. Yeah. And I mean, you can pack your drinks with you, or you can support the beer cart girl.
Love
you can bring
that.
snacks. You don't even have to drink. Like, you can quite literally do whatever you want and just have fun. And you're outside.
Yeah.
Get a tan.
Very true. Okay, well, we got some things on our agenda, girl. We're gonna go golfing, then we're getting in and out, and then we're gonna plan a wedding. Not mine, of course. Well, I'll help you. We'll plan someone else's
wedding for little Quincy, a dog wedding, just like Southern
Oh.
Charm. They just did that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, we cannot have him anywhere near any girl dogs right now because we haven't cut his balls off yet.
Oh no. Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like, he's real horny. I'm like, I'm a human. Like, get off my leg.
Get off my leg.
So maybe not Quincy's wedding, but
someone's.
yes,
Someone's.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I hope
thank
you guys
you.
enjoyed this episode. I seriously, I loved it. I could talk to you for hours, and we will off the microphone.
Yes.
But I hope y'all had fun with us. And
Yeah.
talk to you next Tuesday. That's the end.
Yes. Woo.